Well, good evening, everyone. We are so grateful that you are here, ready to witness IP37 and vote by mail, IP37 voter ID for Oregon, the statewide activation webinar that we've got for you today. And we've got a few speakers, and I'll actually just highlight who they are and then give a quick intro. So we've got David Clemons, we have Ben Edtl, and we have Michaela Hammerson with us tonight. We'll see if Steve Joncus is able to join. We've asked him to join, and I know he's excited to know that we are getting this time with you tonight to help encourage you to start taking action on what we need in this last 60-plus day push for signatures to get IP37 on the November 2024 ballot. So I am privileged to get to introduce tonight for your listening pleasure, and as well as questions. There's a Q&A section that if you don't already have it popped up, I just want to highlight that along that bottom menu bar, click on the Q&A button so that you can actually ask your question. We'll be taking a look at those and trying to answer those real time with you in the meeting tonight. But I had the distinct pleasure of getting to introduce David Clemons. He is a law professor, election integrity warrior, and documentarian of Let My People Go, a great video that's available right now on YouTube. Plus, he's got a Substack that he'll be able to tell you about. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I apologize in advance if anyone's offended by the stogie. I'm at a friend's house, and but I love Ben and Michaela and the group there so much that I wanted to cut into my social time and hang out with y'all for about 20 minutes or so. So I'm here to answer any questions you have. And if there's any prompts on where you want to go with the conversation, I'd love to hear from you. You're muted.
Oh, you're muted, Rebecca.
So David, take it away. Tell us what you think as we kind of come into this end point in this year-long effort that our leaders have taken us through. What do you think it's important for us to be thinking about, even as there's so much elsewhere going on in the world?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I was in Oregon this past week, I think the message I want to leave with y'all is try to anticipate what Trump is doing at the national level and meet him in the middle, because what you're trying to do through IP37 really marries so well with the executive order that he just issued. Now, a lot of people are talking about the Save America Act. That's great. However, I don't think anyone has any real confidence that John Thune and the Uniparty are going to come through. So that's not great news, but Trump seems to be trying to give us the same outcome as the Save America Act through executive orders. The question is, will they be upheld by a court? So my sense is this: expect an injunction. There's probably been lawsuits already filed, or they'll be filed shortly. The injunctions will be local and specific, probably to Democrat-run areas like Oregon, which means the injunction will only have effect in that locality. Back over a year ago, it would have a nationwide effect. The Supreme Court ruled that no, you can't file in one lawsuit and expect it to have the effect of an injunction across the country. So many places that are red aren't going to challenge it. It'll go forward. But the idea is Trump knows this needs to get to the Supreme Court in expedited fashion. So what I can tell you about his executive order, it's actually it's perfect. And the reason why it's perfect is that it's benign, meaning it actually takes existing law through the Help America Vote Act and through the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA. And it works off of laws that have been on the books for decades. So the big challenge that you're going to have from your Oregonian Marxist is, how dare this man infringe upon our state rights, because we get to set forth the time, place, and manner through our state constitutions. And you'd be right. However, when you take federal money from the Help America Vote Act, which Oregon has done, all 50 states have done, you take the strings that are attached. And at that point, you've got to give effect to the federal laws that are on the books. And so the executive orders don't require anything from state officials to implement and regulate the EO. And that's the beauty of it. So what does the EO do? It basically says, look, you're going to have to use the databases that we provide you through DHS and the Social Security Administration when you're sending out mail-in ballots. And so it's going to be from our list. It's not going to be from your list that are off. And through the work of DOGE back in 2025, there was a massive purging of illegals that were on those lists, dead people. So it won't be perfect, but it'll be a much better list than anything that we're working with. And it's going to require those mail ballots that are being sent out to have a unique barcode that's tracked by these same databases. The beauty of that is that the federal authorities have all of the authority to regulate the U.S. Postal Service. So again, if the states don't want to play ball, they want to, dip into their own coffers to send out mail-in ballots. You can't stop them from doing that. But the question is, do you all have the money to do that? And I think most people would admit they don't have the funding. They're so reliant on federal funding that Trump can basically enforce federal law without changing anything, without adding any new provisions, and he's simply enforcing laws that are already on the books, namely to keep non-U.S. citizens from voting in your elections. So it's a beautiful complement to IP37. And so that, I guess that's where I'd go. It's going to be really to lose in the event that this gets before the United States Supreme Court. It'll likely have to be thrown out there on an expedited basis because we've got elections coming up. And I would compare it to the tariff lawsuit.
Hey,
that
you're
was
breaking up just
Supreme
a little
Court.
bit
You'll note
there,
that,
David.
Okay, I've got pretty bad internet here, but hopefully, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, it's a lot like the tariff lawsuit that was brought all the way to the Supreme Court. There were certain provisions that were struck down, but for the most part, they enforced about a half a dozen other things for use of that basically upheld Trump's tariff program. And I expect something similar with his executive order. I'll yield the floor for any questions if you have any.
I am not seeing any questions in the Q&A. There we go. We do have one. So is this a unique barcode that goes on the ballot or the envelope, or does it have to be in conjunction with one another? Because we know that there's a bit of a distinction that just because somebody's filled out the ballot doesn't necessarily that they've also signed the outside of the envelope.
Okay, so I don't know the answer to how it's going to be packaged. The EO probably gives us some direction on what has to be done. So I don't have an answer for that. All I know is that I think the important thing is that they have to use the lists that are provided by DHS and SSA.
Okay. We've got another question here. Do you think that if we get what is needed on the federal level, that it will be in time for elections that are this year?
My understanding is that the executive order is expected to be complied with effective immediately. So barring an injunction, right, and we expect that to happen, you'll probably need an expedited ruling, and I'd expect something in the next 30 days. But, my sense is that you need to have something no later than May. Yeah. Whether it'll come into effect, who knows? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball on that. But it's definitely going to be listened or heard by the Supreme Court before the general election. So just have faith and go along for the ride.
I'm going to ask a question I've had in my brain, which may take us a little off course, and I'll own it if it does. But one of the concerns I've had with this executive order, if it comes in and the states are required, basically mandated to create this new system of voting in person, that they could make this such a horrible experience that it becomes like, because they're going to create big community places where they're basically, collecting those ballots, and it's going to be a big long line. And one of the sweet things about end vote by mail is we're literally trying to say, no, we want it in your neighborhood school, your local Grange. So it's like 500 to 800 ballots that are getting counted, not these big masses. Can that be avoided? Can that kind of deterrence that gets done by these blue states potentially be avoided, do you think?
Yes. I mean, look, if you look at the way that the EO is fashioned from Trump, he is trying to accomplish something with zero buy-in from the states, like zero buy-in. So to the degree that they have identified fraud, waste, and abuse with the U.S. Postal Service, for instance, and they're ensuring that they're only going to send out ballots that are on the DHS approved list, then there's nothing that can be done except for perhaps bad actors trying to create counterfeit versions of something that looks a lot like those voter rolls. But there's penalties that are on the books that are identified in the EO that will basically be mail fraud. And so anyone that wants to take on that risk, go for it. We'll see if Trump has the backbone for enforcement. But this really comes down to, has he figured out how to root out the fraud, waste, and abuse through the U.S. Postal Service, number one. And if he's done that, you're already working with a voter roll list that's be, far cry better than what you're used to in Oregon.
Okay, we've got a few more questions coming in. I want to say thank you to the folks who are turning those in. Again, look for the Q&A box in that bottom menu bar. So what do you think of Trump's idea to use federal voter rolls? There's a concern about trying to keep local control of the voter rolls and whether that works against that.
Okay, so
method.
Well, I mean, look, you're not going to have local control unless you want to. I mean, you can have local control and you can completely rebuff the federal government. But if you do that, there's a spending clause that Trump can basically effectuate through Scott Bessent and say, okay, they're not complying, stop disbursement of HAVA funds. So for if people want local control and they want to, send out mail ballots, if it's not in compliance with what's there in the EO, that's a big gamble. And I think Trump is ready to follow through on a threat to withhold federal monies under the Help America Vote Act. We've seen something similar when Scott Bessent was notified of the fraud, waste, and abuse in Somalia, money that was traveling out of the country to go to Somalia. They put an end to it. So they've got the capability to stop federal money from going to the state of Oregon if there's noncompliance.
Okay. We've got actually about 5 more questions right here. I know you had kind of a limit on time. Are we still okay going through some of these? How many are you? What's your bandwidth right now for?
Yeah, let's go through your questions and then I'll jump off. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, you guys. I think we've got all the questions that we're going to try to get answered with David right now. And I want to thank everybody who took the time to write them. Janet is asking, the Oregon SOS says he's going to remove several hundred illegal voter registrations from the rolls. How would you say is the most simplified way to hold him accountable? The Secretary of State, how do we hold them accountable for that work?
I think Trump's going to have a greater effect on holding your SOS accountable. He can try to remove several hundred illegal voter registrations from the rolls. If I had to bet, though, if they're using voter lists provided by DHS and the Social Security Administration, then you're going to have more than just a couple hundred that are removed. It might be tens of thousands. And so at that point, it's just a question of whether your SOS will comply or sue. But I guarantee you this, if he sues and threatens noncompliance, he's going to risk having a cancellation of federal money.
So Marty asks, ballots in Oregon already have barcodes for voter ID, ballot ID, party preference, and USPS delivery point. This should not be an issue so long as the voter rolls are clean. Do you think the voter rolls will be done locally by the state or by the federal government?
There's going to have to be some interplay, I imagine. It's not like the federal government's going to show up and say, and work on those lists. I think they could probably very, very quickly do a cross comparison between what they've got and what you all have. And if there's a disparity, I think someone's going to have to sound the alarm. But as far as, what is on, an election management system in the state of Oregon, hopefully they'll have that squared away before election day. This is something that they really need to get on like right now, would be my best guess.
Yeah. Then another question from Janice. Do you have any thoughts on why so many current candidates who are running for Oregon governor have not necessarily gotten behind and vote by mail? We actually have heard one come out very vocally for it, David Medina, but none of the major candidates, I would say, that we've got in our thing. Do you have any thoughts on why that might be from a GOP
sure.
perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, if they're a lot of the people that are running for governor, correct me if I'm wrong, probably hold a position, whether it's as a state senator or a state rep. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
All right. So someone's a registered Republican, they've got in somehow. And so they're invested in a system that for whatever reason, even with vote by mail, they've been elected. Now, whether that means they've got a snowball's chance in hell of becoming a Republican governor for Oregon, unlikely, given that you haven't had one since the inception of mail-in voting. So there is this kind of inoculation where they don't voice or message that it's a real problem. A lot of people that I've seen, even when I was there, said, look, we've been doing this for a very, very long time. I saw a message from the Oregon GOP basically saying, oh, thanks a lot, Trump. Now we're going to have to, pay the lawfare expenses to try to implement this. And they weren't on board. But I see that as just kind of uniparty messaging. They're not a threat to the status quo. And one of the reasons why they're not a threat to the status quo is they don't want to get rid of the fraudulent systems that keep good candidates from, going all the way, going the distance and holding a position like governor.
This is great. David, you are one of a kind, and we're so lucky that you took the time to help us. And honestly, you and Ben have built up this almost broship that's happening right now, which I love, totally love. So thank you very much for your time. Ben and Michaela, anything else that you wanted to chime in with respect to David? Because I know he's got to bounce.
David, just thank you again, man. It's good to see you. I appreciate your care for Oregon. I think we need more people across the country to bring eyes on our state. We're the ground zero for all the fraud that we're seeing across the country, from vote by mail to whether it's Medicare fraud or whether it's DHS fraud. Oregon is the starting ground for that. And we just appreciate you coming in and supporting us and supporting our movement and supporting freedom and liberty in the state of Oregon. It means everything to us. Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure. You guys are wonderful. And
hey,
God bless
David,
you.
I just wanted to mention, what is your Substack you were mentioning previously to us?
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you get on to just the Substack app or Substack, on your computer, just type in Professor David Clemons. It's free for all. And if you love what you see, there's an option to sponsor it at $8 a month. And that helps me keep the lights on. That's
awesome. And I will mention one of our folks actually asked about some of the charts that you've got and that basically prove fraud. Is some of that information out on that Substack?
Probably not on Substack, but you can go to my website called theprofessorsrecord.com. There's a bunch of long form interviews with nation state experts. There's the actual documentary that we put out, Let My People Go. And so what I would do is I'd invite people to watch those long form interviews with people like Jeff Lenberg, Harry Howery, Dr. Walter Doherty. Sean Smith. These are all experts and people that I count as friends. And if there's something that you think would be helpful, reach out to Ben or Michaela, and we can send you more information that way.
Super. We appreciate your generosity of time.
Thank
Thanks
you
very
so
much, David.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, take care. God bless you.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, so with that, we will hear from our chief petitioners for IP37, Ben Edtl, who is a firebrand in his own right, and career entrepreneur turned insurgent political reformer who basically saw the landscape of how our government was having its officials elected and said, we should do this differently. And he found Michaela to join him on that, and Stephen as well. But we're going to start out with Ben tonight. Thanks, Ben. Take it away.
Thank you, Rebecca. Everybody, this is Rebecca Green, by the way. I think she's to this angle on my screen. Might be different, but Rebecca Green's the coordinator, volunteer coordinator for NVBM and IP37. And we're totally grateful for all her work. And if you have questions, you can reach out to her. If you want to get activated, definitely reach out to her. And I'm gonna kill spotlight on me because I want to see people, not myself.
That's fair.
Yeah, but as much as people might believe otherwise, but I just, first off, thank you everybody for coming here tonight. We've given us some short notice to get on here and take action. And there's a couple questions I already see that I would like to answer that were for Clemons, but I also have some answers for. And I'll get to that too when I'm done with whatever spiel comes out of my mouth. I don't know, and that's what makes me dangerous. But I'm really grateful for everybody's effort. But we got about 60 days to go, okay? And we don't have support from the Republican caucus or the Oregon GOP. We've got a lot of support from the counties and in the Republican Party, and this is really an issue that is probably the most important issue to Republicans across the nation, which is cleaning up our voter rolls. And I see crying, laughing emojis coming out. It's sad but funny at the same time because Oregon didn't become Oregon, the worst state in the nation across all fronts, the economy, the education, and taxation, and crime, and all this stuff. Didn't happen because one party just got so dominant because they're so popular that Oregon could go straight into the shithole. It didn't happen that way. It happened because we have corruption across our state. Stephen Joncus is in the house. Get out of here. We have massive corruption across the state of Oregon, and our entire state is run by corrupt politicians. And even the good ones that somehow find their way in are weak, and they're too weak to stand up and do things like we did at UPTD, which is refuse to certify an uncertifiable election. It was the first time that's ever happened in history, and I'm very proud to be the CEO of that government agency to actually do that. That led to Von V. Loomis. Thank God for Stephen Joncus because he stepped up and he's running that case and he's mopping the floor with John DeLorenzo, who's kind of a cool guy, but unfortunately sitting across from Steve Joncus on this case and getting whooped. But this is what we have to do. We have to take the reins into our own hands. We have to use the power that we have. And if there's anything that I can remind you of tonight, it is that you have far more power than you think you have. Together, we can do things that the government absolutely cannot overcome. And so our mission with IP37 and NVBM isn't to vote our way out of a rigged system. We know we can't do that. But what we can do is we can make this a kitchen table topic across the state of Oregon to show the nation that we have patriots in the state of Oregon who are willing to stand up and fight for the truth and fight for what we believe in. And I'll tell you right now, if you have questions about whether or not our elections are secure, all you have to do is look at the legislation. All you have to do is understand the fact that nobody is allowed to look into this system. It has zero public oversight. Signature verification is garbage. It means nothing. Computers do it anyways. It doesn't matter. There's no requirement of proof of human being to register to vote in Oregon. An AI bot from the CCP can register to vote, get a ballot, and fill that ballot out and send it in. And match the signature verification. There is literally nothing that stops it. There's no need for a social security number. There's no need for an address. There's no need for a lot of things that prove that you're even a human being. And so the bottom line is with our system in Oregon, it cannot be proven and it cannot be there's no oversight, and it cannot be proven that a single valid elector cast a single ballot. And because of that very fundamental problem with our election system, it is rigged. It is designed for rigging. And so we know that because we caught them red-handed in Southern Oregon and Douglas County, stealing elections from good patriots who are standing up for the taxpayers, saving the taxpayers money, and providing excellent service to the community. And they all lost their elections 8 days after Election Day with no reporting, a total blackout. And we see it all the time. We see it everywhere. We saw it with outside of Woodburn last election. We saw it in Multnomah County in 2024 with 150,000 ballots coming in on or after Election Day. And now we have a bunch of DSA commies that run the city of Portland. So you don't have to have the data and the proof because you're not even allowed to see it. You can use your own eyes. And another thing too, I want to just remind people of, if you want to just spit this at people, this is good. The state of Oregon, prior to having vote by mail, never spent a penny on any marketing campaigns to show the Oregonians that the elections were legit. But since then, we've spent over $1 billion in tax dollars every single election year on promoting 2 words, safe and secure. We see it in billboards. We see it on TV ads. We see it. Watch for the ads during election season. Our elections are safe and secure, safe and secure, safe and secure, safe and secure. They want you to think our elections are safe and secure, but you have no proof that the elections are safe and secure. And it's on the government, the people we supposedly employ, that they need to prove that our elections are safe and secure to us. And they haven't done that. And anyone who says that they have is misinformed or not being honest with themselves or you. And that's a really critical thing, because anytime someone says, do you prove that the elections are rigged? I want you to ask them, prove that they're not. And that's the question that we need that IP37 really seeks to answer. So with that, I just, take action. If one person on this, if we sent this text message out about this event tonight to, 5,000 people, if half of those people got one single 10 sheet filled out, half of you got one single 10 sheet filled out, we would be over the finish line. That's how close we are. If we all do one thing and take a 10 sheet and go get it filled out with 10 signatures, we're going to be on the ballot in November. And we're going to be right in line with our president, President Trump, who is fighting for us. And the only reason why he needs to secure our elections is because it's the most fundamental issue in this nation in relationship to our national security. If a party can steal our elections, they can steal our country. And that's exactly what's happening across our nation in blue states like Oregon. And we have to stand up and fight politically and peacefully before it gets kinetic. This is very, very important. And so we have to take action. The future for our children, the future of the United States of America is in our hands, because we are behind enemy lines in Oregon, and we need to take action and work while we're not taking live rounds in the street by our government, like we saw in Lithuania in the 1980s and Tiananmen Square in the 1980s and the 90s across Europe. This is real. This can happen in the United States. So we have a chance now to do a little bit of action, do a little bit of work, donate a little bit of money, and see if we can't prevent that from happening right here on the West Coast. So with that, we were going to go to Michaela to give an update on. Oh, go ahead, Rebecca.
I just wanted, there was one key question that Leslie asked. I want to make sure we touch on this, because we've heard this.
I said I would answer a couple questions. We can do that real quick.
Thank you so much. So people in small communities in Oregon are concerned they are going long distances just to get to a poll to vote. Can you talk about what might be done to mitigate that potential problem, or maybe a perspective on it?
Yeah, IP37 doesn't technically end vote by mail or absentee voting. It requires that if you live in a rural area, let's say you're elderly, let's say you're, first off, you live in a rural area and you got to drive a little ways to go cast a ballot, get your ass in the car, go cast your ballot, okay? But if you live in a rural area and you're elderly, or you are disabled, or you're in a situation that is uniquely makes it very difficult for you to go to the polls and cast a ballot with your community, then you can apply for an absentee ballot just like we do right now. But you just have to be verified. So IP37 makes it a state in our Constitution. It amends our Constitution. And one of the things it requires for absentee vote by mail is that you verify that you are you, and that you have a decent enough reason not to go to the polls. And that could be what we just outlined. You could be not in town on election day. You could be not able to get out of work. Those are all valid reasons, including being a military officer, being an Oregonian who's living out of state. That's also an opportunity that you can vote by mail, but you have to be verified and confirmed who you are. Then you'll get a ballot in the mail. And so it doesn't stop vote by mail. None of this is about trying to prevent people from voting. That's the most bullshit propaganda that you can imagine. That is not what this is about. That is a blatant lie, and it's a gaslight. This is about making sure that our elections are secure. And if a few people can't vote for some reason or another, that's okay. If we have secure elections, then we know that the people who didn't vote that day on election day are knowing that we have secure elections, and the vast majority spoke and their voice was heard, and their hiring or firing was done in good faith. We don't have that right now. And so when you weigh those things out, that's really critical. But again, you can vote. You can vote absentee. You just have to take a couple steps.
Yeah. And I just want to mention real fast, Carrie is asking kind of one of the questions that David kind of addressed about why the GOP is not necessarily supporting it. Keeping this brief only because I'm looking at the time and I want to make sure we kind of we get to hear from Michaela and Steve if he's got some time as well. Plus I want to go over some key points, but do you want to, and by the way, she's taking some petitions tomorrow to go get signatures. So thank you,
Wonderful.
Carrie. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Carrie.
So much.
I think you should ask the GOP. I think you should ask every single elected Republican official in your districts, your county commissioners, your state reps, your state senators. I think you should ask all the gubernatorial candidates. You should ask them why they don't support it. I think you should reach out to your local GOP and you should say, why is the local GOP supporting or not supporting this? Many local GOPs are supporting us. And so, but make sure that your GOP is. And if they're not, then you should ask them why. And if they don't give you a good answer that makes solid sense, then you should remember that and never forget it. And that's exactly how we can use our power. I do know that we have people in the Republican caucus who have gone out publicly and stated that this is a bad idea, that it won't work, that it will make Democrats vote, will come out in droves to vote against us. But just a couple of weeks before we started in VBM, the big complaint was that Republicans don't vote. They don't get out to vote. So you can't have it both ways. That doesn't work. It can't be both bright and dark at the same time. You have to have logical thought. That's not a logical thought. What this is doing across the country is it's galvanizing Republicans to get out to vote. And if Republicans aren't voting, then galvanizing Republicans to vote is exactly the solution we need. And Democrats in Oregon, frankly, don't have a lot to come out to vote for. What do they want? More taxes? They want more businesses to go under. And I'll tell you right now, I live in the heart of Portland. I'm from the heart of Portland. I live just outside of it now, but I'm from the heart of Portland. We have a business in the heart of Portland in the Pearl District. And I'll tell you right now, the Democrats that I'm surrounded by in our business downtown in Portland didn't vote for this stuff, and they don't want it. And so the reality is not lining up with what we're being told, and that usually means we're being lied to.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. I'm going to introduce Michaela Hammerson, who has been civically active in Douglas County for so long as a member of the Douglas County Republican Party and Umpqua Public Transportation District, still there now. Michaela, thank you for being a chief petitioner for IP37. What do you have to tell us this evening?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm not going to take very much time because I do want to get to what you have to share with us too, and that's the how do we accomplish this. Just really quickly, I have to thank Rebecca. This girl is amazing. She put together this whole thing for us. She is such an amazing volunteer. We're going to hear from her in a little bit. But we had some exciting things happen recently with our petition counting. So we got a bunch of volunteers together. You guys may have seen the videos circulating, I think, on Facebook and on X. But we processed over 7,000 pages. And that processing takes a lot of time. There's a lot of sorting. Realistically, it was even more than 7,000 pages because we have all of the act language attached and all of that. So our volunteers are just so amazing. They gave up an entire Saturday and just sorted and numbered petitions for us. We are so close to having a good count so that we can turn this into the Secretary of State's office. As many of you probably know, I actually do work full time and I have 3 kids. And so this is not my only thing. So I try to find time here and there to get all of this done. So I almost have a count ready. We are going to be making a trip over to the Secretary of State's office very shortly to turn in our first set of petitions. It's not everything that we have because they're continuously coming in, and so we have to process them in batches and then turn them in. But you guys will see the first set of batches or first batch of petitions turned in to the Secretary of State soon. And so anyway, that's super exciting. That's the best update that I have right now as far as the petitions go. One of the things that I did want to just touch on really quickly, because David Clements brought this up about how well the executive order pairs with IP37. And I want you guys to know that that's not an accident. That was planned. That was on purpose. When we knew that Trump had been elected, Ben and I had a conversation about this, that this is the time. Trump's already told us, if you listen to what he says, he told us what the plan was. He told us that we were going to be getting rid of vote by mail, that we would be returning to our precincts, that he's been talking about this for a long time. So we knew it was the perfect time to get this petition started. That there would be some sort of action or executive order from him. So that's not by accident that we're here right now, but it's very, very exciting stuff. And I'm really just thrilled to have the our federal government echoing what we're trying to do here in Oregon. I would say just don't lose faith. There are some really, really good things coming. And, like Ben said, if we can just pull together, the sun came out again. It's not winter time anymore. People are out and about. It's nice to set pop-ups up. So, get a couple of friends together and set a table up and gather signatures. I know there's a lot of energy out there for it right now, and we can do this. If we want to, we can do it. The pathway is there, and it really is just going to take, the hard work of all of the volunteers who we just appreciate so much. So, thank you for the time, and I will turn it over to Steve if he has anything to say. I'm sure you want to probably introduce him, Rebecca.
Yeah, just to say this is Steve Joncus, not only a chief petitioner, but key attorney in charge of the Von v. Loomis lawsuit. Welcome, Steve. What kind of gems do you want to lay on us this evening? I'm so grateful that you came tonight.
Well, I'm sorry that I'm late. Is my camera not working?
It is not working.
But your picture looks great.
Yeah, your picture looks lovely. Just run with it. Yep.
I think there's going to be more than this executive order from Trump. I think that he just look up how often he talks about vote by mail in his truth posts. This is just a toe in the water. I think it's just a very introductory step. I don't know. I was late. I didn't hear all of the professor's commentary, but my view is that there's going to be a lot of action by the administration in terms of criminal prosecution of the stolen election in 2020. I mean, the United States of America was stolen in 2020. That is a big thing. That is treason. That is hanging offense. And there are there's tens of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who are guilty of participating in that treason. Trump's not going to let that go. And a point that Professor Clemons made when he was in Oregon is that the justice system is not suited for that vast a number of people, defendants. But the military tribunals are. So I think we're going to see military tribunals. We're going to see a lot of people arrested and tried, 300 people in 30 days type of thing. The uh, I think Trump sent out JAG officers across the country. We heard about that months ago. That wasn't to prosecute um, illegal aliens, to send illegal aliens back. That was for a different purpose. And I think this is all going to be coming. So we actually, if Trump takes those actions and um, declares an emergency, which is this is an emergency. Um, it is an attack on the United States by United States enemies, and he can take action to fix that. There's without any asking anyone's permission. So I wouldn't be surprised and that by November of this year, there will be mail-in voting, not no mail-in voting anywhere. There will be, except for, uh, permission and prior with permission and prior um, approval for absentee ballots. Absentee ballots is absolutely fine. We've had it forever, but it's not automatic mail-in voting for everybody. Send out ballots everywhere. That mail-in voting will be outlawed by emergency executive order, and it would be a single day election. No, and the Supreme Court's also going to be ruling on whether ballots can be counted after the election. That will be coming in a few months. Um, and no machines. And the imagine if that were the case. No machines, one day of voting. That's exactly IP37. And voting in person. And who's going to be counting the ballots? The National Guard. The National Guard, there's enough National Guard members to count the ballots. So that's my rosy view of what's going to happen this year. And guess what? If IP37 is on the ballot, we can have this cemented in the Oregon Constitution, because we actually have a chance to win an election like that. Now, the is obviously the big hurdle on the majority or a lot of people in supporting IP37 is convenience. Well, I like to say, yeah, it's convenient to vote, take weeks time, look at all the resources and fill it out on your kitchen table. But it's convenience all the way to the gulag because it's not a real election. It's a managed election. It's a election that the government decides who wins, not the people. The problem the people have also raised that it's less convenient to go and drive to vote. Well, yes, and certainly in rural areas it can be a long distance, but it should be by precinct. And I'm not sure how big the precincts are in the rural areas, but that's something the government can do to set up voting stations in convenient places local to where the people are and not require long drives.
Hey, Steve, do you mind answering a question real fast?
Sure.
One question that came up is there, in response to some of the foreshadowing that you're suggesting we're seeing right now about where we're going with elections this year. Sam is asking, she's noticing, is this the reason why a bulletproof elections office is being done right now in Douglas County?
I don't know.
Don't know. So there you go, Sam.
But
we didn't make that decision, did we? So
no. I guess it reflects the fear of government officials from the uprising of the people, and because the people have had enough of this. The people, as someone famous says, the people have had a bellyful, and we're not going to continue to live under the heavy hand of a dictatorship, which is what we really have. We do not control our government because we do not have confidence in our elections, and we do not elect our leaders. They're predestined by the system. So the people should not put up with that. And if we can't do this peacefully, there's likely to be, kinetic, as Ben put it, kinetic response. So hence, the people empowered deciding to put up bulletproof glass.
Yeah. Thank you.
In other
Steve.
words, they put up the bulletproof glass because there might be reason to shoot them. But that's not a threat on any election worker, because that would put me in prison. That's not a threat.
Yeah. Not being suggested. Hey, what somebody else just noted, that an election office manager just resigned. And the last information, Marty's saying the last information I heard about elections was 1 day in-person ID mandatory, citizens only, precinct level with precincts less than 1,500. Okay, I'm going to actually kind of call it now. Steve, is there any last thing, or are we okay
No, that's all I wanted to convey. I'm willing to answer any other questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm going to actually just get us shifted over if we can take 6 minutes just to review some specific content that I want to make sure that this audience sees. This is being recorded, and so far, I think we're going to share the recording. So stay tuned. So if folks who haven't been able to attend, they will be able to see it when that time comes. Are you guys able to see my screen? It says welcome.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to move us through this relatively quickly, and Gloria is very good at keeping time, so she will rein me in. Thank you, Gloria. Couple of things I want to highlight is that as circulators or even volunteers who care about it but may not be super comfortable actively kind of recruiting signatures, first of all, you could literally, if somebody's asking about it, you can literally point them to the opportunity to join to go to a pop-up. I actually need to update this language on this, but this is supposed to say share basically all of the locations where we know about events happening. I missed that typo there. So we have an awesome volunteer down in Jackson County, Stephanie, who is a powerhouse and has been putting together this lovely list. We now have them posted out there on both of our websites. You see NVBM, which has been the stalwart for this campaign. We've got a new one that speaks more to the vision of where we're trying to go. Absentee ballots are available upon request. If you're housebound military or traveling on election day, you can get your ballot. We just are ending vote by mail in its current form, and we want election day ballot counting so that we get the results that night. So this one's more oriented towards the vision. This is telling the truth about our current election system. They can look for a pop-up out at these links on both of these sites, and they can also go to the single signer page also on both of these sites using this URL right here. I'm going to move us through to the next one. I'm not pausing for questions right now.
Just really quickly before you move on that, please. Though, that you're advertising the single signers, it's just important to make a distinction there. If you need a 10-liner, you need to contact us for those 10-liners.
Thank you for making that point. And because we want every signature to count, the Secretary of State is not going to cut any slack for this. This is his wheelhouse. He will not cut slack. So we want to make sure we give them to you. And I just came back with a plethora. And that's more than 1,000, by the way. I came back with a plethora of petition sheets. If you need them, we have people near you, and if not, we will get them there near you so that you can get them and be able to use them to have your friends and family and maybe some of your local Bible study or other business partners get their signatures too. I'm going to move us on to the next one. I want to highlight a great resource. Our friend Roman Rogers with Take Back Oregon said, we've got to highlight this great video channel that Rick Riley in Clackamas County put together. He did this completely independent of End Vote by Mail, but we're looking at it going, oh my gosh, these are like kindred spirits here. It's a great resource to check out this particular channel, Ditch VBM, on YouTube, and it explains with really engaging graphics and vocal intonations from Rick Riley himself, telling the story about how elections are impacted today by the current process, and it's not in a good way. The next thing I want to highlight is the circulator resources. So first of all, if you are not yet collecting, most of you who are collecting probably already have access to this, but we wanted to highlight this is a QR code specifically for the volunteer guide. So if you are gathering signatures, this is a lot of thought and energy from the chief petitioners on like specific responses. You've heard some of them use them in some of the conversation tonight. This is actually kind of a look into a lot of the thought processes about why the petition is written the way it is, and what basically addressing a lot of those questions that people who are skeptics may have. And skeptics are not our enemy. Honestly, it feels like every time people are asking me questions, it's an opportunity to create clarity. And some of them aren't going to buy in. And right now, the answer is, okay, it sounds like you're not ready to sign. If you get interested in it, here's a card, here's a pamphlet. You can take a picture of this business card and go find out more information about it. But we don't need to burn energy on it. The volunteer guide's got the great answers to questions that you may be getting, you may have yourself, and I want to encourage you to leverage that. We also have frequently asked questions that are available to everybody out on the websites. And I want to give a shout out to the chief petitioners who had put a lot of that stuff together, and we basically just consolidated it so we could get it out on the website and make it easily accessible on both websites. The last thing I want to mention is a circulator weekly office hour pilot. So 4 weeks coming up starting next week. We want you as volunteers who are interested in bringing in your questions to get answered. A lot of you guys are super experienced. You don't necessarily need to have this space, but what we're trying to do is create an onboarding ramp for folks who are not super comfortable with asking people for signatures for petitions. I am not an expert either, and I wasn't a year ago. I'm learning a lot though from all of these awesome people that we've gotten to hear from tonight, and as well as others who are peers of ours who've been circulating. Some of them we've also gotten great questions from today. So I just want to say this is 30 minutes that I'm allocating. I'll go make it to an hour if enough people come in with questions, but 30 minutes that I'm allocating from 6 to 6:30 every Tuesday, April 14th, 21st, 28th, and May 5th. Please consider joining. I'm actually going to also drop into the chat once I'm no longer sharing this, a direct Zoom link, but it's a direct link where you can register. But this QR code also gives gets you to that Zoom link where you can register. Question?
We're close up on time. I just want to see if you would give a little bit more detail on how you get on Stephanie's list. Do they get in touch with her directly? She'd said it in the chat, and I thought you were going to cover it a bit more detail.
Yeah. So right now we've got a form that people can use. So I think that will be an opportunity for us to basically share, I think, in the office hour potentially. But you're right. What I'll do is we're working on figuring out if it's going to stay in the Google Zoom or if we might move it to VRM, to be honest. So right now it's in Google Zoom. So Stephanie brought it up. She and I have been working on it. I'm trying to figure out if we might be able to put it in a different platform, but we've got a form at least in a starting state right now where we would like people who are doing events, we can help cross promote it. So we want to have some of that information come in and basically get added to that list. So stay tuned for more information on that. If you are not tuned into your county lead, then I would suggest you connect with them, because my expectation is we're going to be making sure that every county lead who's supporting IP37 has an opportunity to share that within their groups. So, like I said, as we get that information available, we will figure out a way to get it out to the regular circulators. Thank you very much. I just wanted to close out really with a great thank you for joining, because you know what? This was like not even probably on your radar a couple of days ago. And you said, this is really interesting and I want to know more, or I want to be able to chime in with my questions. This is awesome. Thank you so much for making the time. And I want to thank our leaders, David Clemons, who's left now, but also Ben and Michaela and Steve and Gloria And Roman, who helped prepare some of this collateral, gave us input on this collateral. Thank you all for taking your time to on a Wednesday night to talk through End Vote by Mail, IP37. This is Oregon's SAVE Act. Thank you.